Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk a little bit about consent and how it applies to sex in general, BDSM, kink, all of that good stuff. So I got a comment on one of my videos recently. On this video here, so it was called Escalation Guide, Say What You Want. And if you're not familiar with what escalation means, it's not a word that I use a lot, but people use it a lot, so I've used it here. It basically means when you're usually a male making a move on a woman. There are all sorts of escalation guides on the internet that will say, you got to touch her, you got to do this, you got to do that, all of these sort of techniques. And as I said in this video, if you're confused about how to move things to the bedroom or how to make a move or how to kiss a woman or how to touch a woman, you're allowed to just say with your words the thing that you want or ask for what you want. You can say, can I kiss you? Yo, do you want to make out with me? Yo, can I touch you? Yo, do you want to come back to bed with me? You can literally just say what you want. And in this video, I had a comment, and I really liked this comment, and I wrote a big long reply to this comment, and this is the comment here. I wrote a really big reply, but whoever left this comment has since deleted their comment, so all of my replies got lost as well. So this is my attempt, I guess, to make a video about this and talk about this, because this question comes up a lot. So I'll read out the question. Hi there. I have a question about consent and how it works. It's obvious that I should stop once told to stop, but what about initiating and escalating intimacy? I mean, if I try some move or touch, like placing my hand on her leg or leaning in for a kiss, to test the waters without specifically asking permission beforehand, and my partner isn't ready for it, of course I'll pull back, but does it mean that this initial touch was non-consensual in the first place? I feel like I'm prohibited to do anything unless I have specific verbal permission for it. Is it really like this? Sorry if the question seems stupid, but it really bothers me. Thank you in advance. And like I said, I left a really big, long reply to this question, which has now since been deleted. So the main thing that I sort of said to this person, and I'll say to any of you who are feeling a little confused about consent or you're worried about overstepping someone's boundary, is if you're even caring about this in the first place, if you're even asking the question of how do I make sure I don't overstep my partner's boundaries, how do I make sure that everybody has fun, that I don't hurt someone or push someone too far, if you're even asking and thinking about those topics, you're already probably doing a pretty fucking fantastic job. And the comment that I wrote to this commenter was essentially a big warm hug and me saying, you're doing good, I promise. Don't stress, even if you did something and your partner said, hey, I'm not comfortable with that, as you said, you would pull back and everything would be wonderful and you'd be fine and you'd talk about it and you'd go, hey, sorry about that. If you're even asking or caring about this topic, you're doing a good job. And I think that often gets lost in conversations about consent, at least in my experience as someone who's explored a lot of BDSM, had a lot of sex, had a lot of sexual partners over my life. Consent, the way that I see it talked about often online, and people are doing their best, but it can often devolve into this big, scary topic. And I'm sure some of you, even just seeing me talk about the word consent, you might have some feelings that come up. I have a lot of feelings, I don't anymore, but I used to have a very strong reaction to the word consent because I felt lectured to. I felt patronized. I felt like it was this big, weird, scary topic where any wrong move would mean that I'm a bad person and 100 people are going to jump on me and tell me you're bad because you didn't get consent perfect according to my random definition, and everybody has different definitions, and there's all these rules and all these fears and overcomplications and all of that. And a lot of people, like this commenter, get very mixed up in all of this, and they get almost stuck. They get almost paralyzed. And in the reply that I wrote to this particular commenter, we kind of went back and forth a little bit. I wrote a big, long reply, and then they wrote more details. And in their follow-up reply, and I'm just going from memory here, but I remember them saying something along the lines of, I feel really stuck. I feel really paralyzed. Yeah, Andy, what you just wrote to me made me feel a little bit better, but I just don't want to hurt someone. I'm really scared that I will hurt someone. And a lot of, like I said, consent discussion on the internet and in books and all of that, people are doing their best when they talk about this topic, but it often comes from this place of fear. It comes from this place of What if we get something wrong? What if we push a partner's boundaries? What if we hurt someone? What if we fuck it up and something bad will happen? I'm a bad person. I'll go to jail because I touched a woman on the leg and she said no thank you. And then I was like, oh my God, princess, I'm so sorry that I touched you. Put me in jail. It comes from this strong place of fear. On this channel and in my own life, I like us to talk from a place of love, a place of excitement, joy, peace, kindness, all of these sort of things, and not focus so much on fears. And so whenever I think of consent, whenever I talk to my coaching clients or, you, the audience, about consent, I like to first operate from the premise that we are here to have a good time. We're going to the bedroom with our partners or multiple partners so that we can have a beautiful time together, so that we can sort of come together, two souls coming together as one, or three souls or four souls, or however many of you are in the bedroom getting your freak on. We're coming together to have a positive experience. And when you even just start from that premise, when you put it in your head that I want to have a good time and I want my partners to have a good time, if you operate almost from that philosophy, that principle, I guess, if that's your first principle, the idea of like stepping over someone's boundaries, or what if I make a wrong move, or what if I get consent slightly wrong, it kind of solves itself. Because you again pull it back to, well, I want to make sure I have fun and they have fun. So if I ever do overstep their boundaries, or I do something they're not comfortable with, or I push things a little bit too far and then they tell me, or maybe they don't even tell me, they tell me afterwards, well, I want to make sure they have a good time. So I do whatever I would need to do to make sure they have a good time. So if I do overstep their boundaries, I'll stop, I'll slow down, I'll say, hey, how can we, like, what do we want to do about this? How can we talk through this? How can I make you feel loved, supported, pleasured, all of these different things that I want you to feel? What do I now need to do to help facilitate that? And it kind of, like I said, it'll solve itself. You'll figure out what to do. You sort of bring it back to this principle of, I'm going to do my best to respect my partner's boundaries, to help them have a good time, to communicate as best as I possibly can. And I will keep improving at those things over time. You give yourself a little bit of permission to suck. And I think a lot of consent discussion does not give any room for that. It's basically, look, the first time you have sex or the first time you ever try any BDSM or kink, you need to be fucking perfect at this. You have to have consent nailed down. You have to have all of these techniques perfect. You need to be a god at this before you've ever done it before. Whereas I like to leave a little bit of room for the fact that we're humans. I'm a human. Sometimes I don't get things perfect, including with consent, including with kink, including with boundaries, including with pleasure, especially when we're talking about something sexual or intimate, where there are all these sort of emotions and these stories, and we have our history and maybe some baggage sometimes, maybe even some trauma. We have some expectations of how sex is going to go. Sometimes, or often, maybe we can say almost all the time, we over glamorize sex, excuse me, and we expect it to be this big, amazing, wonderful experience, and then if it doesn't line up with that, we kind of feel disappointed. We watch a lot of TV and movies and pornography where sex and intimacy are portrayed as this beautiful, perfect, romantic, sexual, lustful, no communication needed, everybody's just on the same wavelength magically. It's often portrayed as that, and real life might not be like that. It can be, but it might not always be like that. So I, in discussions on consent, like to leave a little wiggle room, or a little bit of love for the fact that you're just a human who's trying to do their best. Your partner or partners are just humans who are also trying to do their best. And with that understanding and that empathy, then we can engage in conversations about, or then I want to engage in conversations about consent. And again, this isn't to say that my discussions on consent are better than other people's discussions on the internet, but this is my principle and where I like to come from. I like to come from that place of peace, that place of love, that place of empathy, that place of, hey, my partner's just trying to do their best. And if any of my partners, and this has happened sometimes, if any of my partners have overstepped some of my boundaries, or maybe didn't ask me for consent for something first, I like to step back and say, well, hey, they're a human being trying to do their best. They weren't trying to fucking hurt me. And if you ever do feel like the other person is trying to hurt you, well, you don't have to be with that person. But most people are not trying to deliberately hurt us. They're not trying to deliberately get consent wrong. They're not trying to deliberately get what they want and force us to do something. And again, if you do feel like you're in a situation like that, you're more than welcome to leave, or to talk about it with your partner, or talk about other people that you trust, or talk to a psychologist, or whatever it might be that you choose to do in that situation. But the vast majority of times, our partners want to have a good time, and they want to feel like they're a good person, or that they're good while they do that. There's a really great quote or philosophy by Seneca, who was one of the old Stoic philosophers. And he said, everybody is doing what they believe to be the good at that moment in time. Like, everybody is literally doing what they believe to be good. Even the people that we might vilify or say like are just like pure evil, like Hitler. Hitler was trying to do what he believed to be good at the time. Now, history might have a very different view of that. We can kind of look back and say, maybe killing 6 million or so people wasn't the kindest thing that you could have done there, Hitler. But in the moment, that's what he believed to be good. And that's obviously an extreme example. But if we can find the space to look at someone like Hitler and say, well, look, he was trying to do what he believed to be good. Probably not what I would do if I was trying to do good. Okay, I'll just put that out there. Andy is not Hitler, we have confirmed that. But if Hitler was maybe trying to do what he believed in that moment to be good, maybe my partner who overstepped my boundaries a little bit, or someone who was a little bit pushy in my view, or someone who maybe even made me feel uncomfortable or creeped out, maybe they were just trying to do what they believed to be good at that point in time. And that doesn't, if I'm really not comfortable with it, that doesn't mean that I have to keep participating, obviously. I can leave, I can say stop, I can say my safe word, I can just say, hey, I'm done for the night, all of that. But I like to come at these discussions from a place of the other person is on my team. We're all on the team of humanity. We're all on the same, beautiful path to a better self, to a higher consciousness, whatever you want to define that, however you want to define that. But the other person is probably not trying to fuck me. Okay. And so from that place, can you apply that to yourself? And for some of you, this might be a little bit difficult. It took me quite a few years to be as loving and patient with myself as I could be with other people. But if you can do it for someone else, you can do it for you. And so if you ever overstep your partner's boundaries, or maybe you touch them and then they say, no, thank you. And you go, oh, fuck, I feel a little bit bad that I didn't ask first. And obviously, maybe this isn't so obvious, but yes, that is the short answer to the question of consent. I usually just say, if you're not sure about consent, just ask. That was the whole point of the previous video that I did. Again, I'm talking about this video here, the escalation guide, where I literally just said, if you're not sure about how to touch your partner or how to escalate things or how to move to the bedroom, just ask. Just literally say, do you want to do this with me? So that's my very short, quick, sweet answer for consent. Just ask. But, if I ever do overstep a partner's boundaries, or I do something that they then later say, or in the moment say, hey, I'm really not cool with that. Or even if I creep somebody out or make someone uncomfortable, can I give myself the same empathy and patience and love that I would give for them or for someone else? Can I just say I was a human being who was trying to do my best? And yeah, I did something that, okay, in the future, I'm not going to do that again. I've learned something. So, hey, that's beautiful too. Can I be okay? Can I give myself that love? And when you give yourself that love or that patience or that forgiveness, if that's a word that resonates with some of you, I'm then in a position where I can look after them and I can give them love and support and space or whatever it is that they need. Or maybe it's an apology. Hey, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I probably should have just asked you, but now I know for the future, are you okay? You can just have that space and that room for empathy. But if you're coming at these discussions, or if you're coming at these topics, whether it's sex in general or specifically consent, if you're coming at it from a place of fear, like a lot of the discussions around consent come from, you might overstep a partner's boundary. And then because you're operating from a fear-based place or a guilt or a shame, like I feel guilty if I overstep my partner's boundaries. It's shameful. I'm bad if I don't get consent correct, which is how a lot of consent discussion is phrased. You're bad if you ever get this wrong. You're a misogynist, or you're abusive, or you're a piece of shit because you put your hand on her leg and she said no. That means you're a bad person. If you come at it from that place, or you have those feelings or those thoughts in your head, then when you do, or if you do happen to overstep somebody's boundaries because you're feeling all that fear and guilt and shame, that's not a very productive place to be in or to come from to then support and nurture and love and empathize with your partner. When you're stuck down in shame and guilt and fear and like, fuck, I'm a bad person, you're so obsessed with those feelings in that moment. Those feelings are so overwhelming. It's very hard to turn to your partner or the person that you're sleeping with and say, yo, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Like, is there anything I can give you right now? Is there anything I can do for you? Like, it's very fucking hard to say that because you're steeped in your own shame and guilt. Think about a time in your life, whether it's sexual or just in general, where you felt incredible fear or like you're deep in shame. You feel ashamed. You feel bad about who you are or what you've just done. Or you feel guilt, like, fuck, man, I shouldn't have done that. When you're in that place, do you really feel like supporting and loving and empathizing or even thinking about what the other person might be going through? No. Because you're too busy stuck up in here. You're in your own head thinking, fuck, what I did was so bad. What are the consequences going to be? Fuck, what if I'm in trouble? What if I really hurt them? There's no space in your head or your heart or your soul to say, is this person okay? Like, what are they going through right now? But if you can forgive yourself, if you can be patient with yourself, if you can be loving and kind to yourself, from that position, your heart is more open. Your mind is definitely more open. Your mind is less preoccupied with the fact that you feel shame or fear or guilt or whatever else. You're not thinking about yourself. You're actually thinking about the other person. And it's sort of just a misunderstanding with consent discussions, at least the discussions around consent that come from a place of fear or guilt or shame. They try and make you feel bad if you don't have consent perfect. There's a misunderstanding there. They're coming from a place, when they have these discussions, people are coming from a place of like, they're trying to empathize. They're trying to say to you, empathize with your partner. But like I'm saying here, it's very fucking hard to empathize with your partner when you're deep in shame or guilt or fear of like, fuck, what if I get this wrong? You literally don't have the space or the mental headspace to be able to empathize with your partner. And so that is one of the biggest reasons why I get you guys and girls, not just with sex, but with everything, to try as best you can to come from a place of love, to come from a place of joy, of excitement, of empathy with the other person, of like, leaving people better than we found them, of adding value to other people's lives, whether that's people that we have sex with or friends or just business relationships, anything. We're all trying to, at least through my content, I'm trying to encourage you to rise up in terms of, I guess, consciousness. Rise up that, for any of you who watch my channel a lot, rise up that map of consciousness up to the higher levels of, love, empathy, peace, joy, excitement. From that place, it is so much easier to hold the space and empathize with your sexual partners, your friends, and all of that. So if you ever do overstep a boundary, you pause, as this commenter literally said I'm assuming it's a he, already does. Like, if my partner isn't ready for it, of course I will pull back. Yeah. So you pull back and then you simply say, hey, look, I see that I've overstepped your boundaries. What do we want to do about it? Or do you want some space? Do you want to slow down a little bit? Like, we can just talk about it. In other words, when you're coming from that place of love or that place of just, fuck, even if you can't get to love, when you're just coming from a place of like neutral, when you're just feeling neutral, like you're not feeling fear, you're not feeling guilt, you're not feeling shame, you're not like, fuck, what if I get consent wrong? When you're just neutral, you then can have this space for them and help them find solutions because you're feeling neutral. And from that place, it's very easy to say, what do we want to do about this? Do you want to stop? I'm okay if we stop. I'm okay if you're not okay. Like, we'll deal with that. I'm okay if you literally want to stop having sex right now. I'm okay if you want to never have sex with me again. That's okay. Like, I'm here for it. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're thinking, I'm here for that. I can see I overstepped your boundary. What do we want to do about that? And from that place, you just have a completely different energy about you that helps or allows other people to feel okay with their energy. It's a more welcoming, embracing energy to be neutral, let alone if you can get yourself to the place of love or empathy or understanding. And that can take some time. I've been working on this shit for years. It's not like I just woke up one day and I was like, I think I'm going to be loving and empathetic with everybody. No, fuck no. It took a lot of reading, a lot of books. Byron Katie books help a lot. David Hawkins books help a lot. The book You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought, that helped a lot. All of these books and podcasts and videos have helped me a lot. But when you're in that neutral or that love and happiness and joy, welcoming emotion, when you're in those emotions, it's far easier to be there for your partner. Whereas again, if you're in fear or shame or guilt or frustration with yourself, anger is another one. Often people will feel anger if they overstep their partner's boundaries. They feel angry with themselves. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I should have known that I shouldn't have. God, what am I doing? It's like, you're a human being. You're a human being. You're doing your best. But when you're in anger or fear or those lower emotions, those restrictive emotions, I guess you could say, like I said, it's so much harder to then solve the actual problem. Because you'll say to your partner, fuck, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I'm sorry that I did that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And you almost shut down. And then they shut down because they're like, well, you're angry now and I feel closed off and you hurt me. And fuck, now we're in this like battle without meaning to. You're both humans. You're both doing your best, but you're in this sort of battle. But again, when you're in those either neutral or higher emotions, there is no battle. You're just like, hey, I can see that I overstepped your boundaries. I'm sorry about that. What would you like to do? And that in itself is usually the solution. I have pushed people's boundaries without meaning to. Even recently, I will sometimes do something and my partner or partners might say, hey, well, I really don't like that. Is it okay if we don't do that anymore? That's me overstepping a boundary. And then I will say, hey, that's cool. Like, do you want to stop? Do you want to keep going? Do you want to go for a little walk? What do you want to do? No, I think I'm okay if we keep going. But is it okay if we just go gently? That's usually the answer I get. No, I'm okay. Is it okay if we just go gently? Yeah. Because I've allowed them the space to feel whatever it is that they want to feel, to express to me that I've overstepped a boundary. But if I'm feeling fear and guilt and shame and anger and all of these lower emotions when it comes to consent, I'm not that safe space for them to open up and tell me that they've overstepped or I've overstepped their boundary. So it's as simple as that. You're a human being that's trying to do their best, and so are they. And sometimes boundaries and consent and all of these things can be a little bit messy because, hey, sometimes you or your partner might not know that something is a boundary until you try it. You right now, you listening, do not know all of your boundaries. And you might be like, well, that's silly. I know what I like and I don't like. No, you fucking don't. How many times in your life, whether it's sexual or outside of the bedroom, has something happened that has never happened to you or involved you? It's never happened to you before. And then you go, fuck, I really don't like that. I don't like when this particular person treats me like that. Or I don't like this event that I went to. Sorry, that's my phone. I don't like this event or this thing that's happened. I'm really not okay with it. I don't want to ever go through that again. That's happened to all of us multiple times since childhood. We often don't know our boundaries until they're actually crossed, until we test it out, until something or a situation or a person happens and we go, I don't like that. I don't want that to happen again. And so consent and boundaries by their very nature are something that is quite fluid. And we're always in this process of self-discovery and I guess discovery with our partners as well. You're probably not going to sit down with your partner. Okay, it's an impossibility to sit down with your partner or partners and discuss every single boundary that you have in your entire life. Like literally that isn't possible. And even if you wrote them all out and you spent the next 5 years writing out every boundary that you have, like I said, you would not realize there are some that you haven't put on there yet. Because there are some things that you haven't tried yet. There are some things you haven't explored. You probably, even if you could map them all out, you're going to forget some of them. And even if you could say all of them to your partner, they're going to forget some of them. They're going to misremember some of them. They're going to go, oh shit, yeah, you told me you didn't want to do, I don't know, fucking spanking. And I'm so sorry, I forgot. Like that has happened with me. someone has said, hey, I really don't like spanking or something. And I'll just be passionate and I'll be in the middle of sex. And because spanking on the ass is something that I do a lot, I will spank and they'll go, hey, I don't like that. And I go, oh, fuck yeah, I'm sorry. Oh my God, you told me that. Yeah. And I'll stop and I'll go, are you okay? Like, how do you feel? And they'll go, yeah, I've been through some stuff before. I have a little bit of trauma with spanking. Can you please not? Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, I really didn't mean to do that. It's okay. It's okay. We can keep going now. Are you sure? Yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay. Please don't spank me. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm sorry about that. And then we keep having sex. Like that is sort of the nature of discovery of consent and boundaries. And I think it's part of the nuance that can be missed in discussions from when it comes to consent. And again, everybody who discusses consent and boundaries, maybe I could have said this at the start, they're doing it to try and make you and your partner have a better experience. It's coming from a beautiful place. It's just maybe the method is a little bit confused and it's a little bit coming from a place of fear and anger and shame and guilt. And not always. There are plenty of consent discussions that are had like this, where they're coming from a place of like love and let's make sure we have a beautiful experience together. That happens a lot. But there is also a lot out there that I have consumed myself as well that just left me confused and unsure of how the fuck I could ever know if my partner was going to be okay with something. And I went through a period myself where I would just ask for everything. And that is kind of like the answer. If you're ever not sure, just ask. Like literally that is the answer. We can sum up consent by saying, if you're ever unsure, just ask. And I think that's how most teachers of consent or kink or BDSM or sex educators would kind of sum up everything they're saying. They'd probably sum it up into that sentence and just say, if you're ever unsure, just ask. But I had to go through that journey of discovery myself, of just asking, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I got to a point, at least myself, where I did become a little bit neurotic. I was like, fuck, like, do I need to ask if I asked if I can pin her hands above her head, but I only asked for the left hand. What about the right hand? And you can become like literally neurotic to the point where you're paralyzed or frozen or stuck and unable to fully participate in the actual experience, because to some degree, intimacy and sex, at least the way that I enjoy it, involves a process of letting go a little bit, of being in the moment, of surrendering to the moment and participating fully in that. And at least for me, constantly asking about consent, like literally for every little thing. Can I pin your right arm? Okay, can I pin your left arm? Okay, can I kiss you? Like to get to that level took me out of the moment, absolutely. And so I will bring all of this back to the thing that I would like you to leave this podcast with, which is, we're sort of humans who are very emotional. We can be messy at times. We have a lot going on in our head. And I would focus on doing your best and your partners realizing and empathizing with them that they're doing their best, and focus on that love and that fun and that excitement and that peace and that joy. And if you ever overstep a boundary, that's okay. I guess I'm sitting here telling you that it will be okay, as long as you're doing your best, as long as you're asking if you're ever unsure. I promise it will all end up okay. A mindset that has helped me a lot with this stuff, like I said, is I want to leave my partners better than I found them. If we're going to sleep together or date or whatever for a week, I want them to walk away from that at least a tiny little bit better, even if it's just, wow, that was fun. Great. That's what I want. If we're together for a month, I'd like them to walk away feeling, hey, I'm glad that happened. If we're together for a year, I'd want them to walk away from that going, man, I'm really glad for that chapter in my life. I'm glad that happened. If we're together for 10 years or 50 years, if we never end up, and this isn't true, I was going to say if we never end up separating, like my girlfriend Imogen, if we are together forever, but that's not true. No one is ever together forever. One or both of you die at some point. So if I spend a lifetime with a partner, I would like them towards the end of that to be like, damn, I'm fucking glad that happened. I generally speaking, want everybody to be a little better off or a little happier, or even just say we had a good adventure together after they've met me, whether it's a friend, whether it's sex, whether it's anything. And I'm not so egotistical or delusional that I think that I'm so wonderful that everybody who meets me is going to be better off. No, that isn't necessarily the goal. And so when I say things like this, like, you know, I like to leave my partners better than I found them, it's a general like philosophy. It doesn't, I know it's not going to have a 100% success rate, but when I come from that place of I'm going to try and leave my partners a little better than I found them, discussions of consent and boundaries and all of that, they solve themselves. Because like I said, if you ever overstep a boundary, if I ever overstep a boundary, which still happens to this day sometimes, and I'm doing my absolute best, but it will still happen from time to time because I want them to be better off and I want to give value and add value to their life and encourage them to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be with whatever I can give them to help facilitate that. Like I said, it's just you're in this warm, safe space, this loving, wonderful, exciting, sexual, kinky, filthy, great, intimate space where ideas of what if I overstep their boundaries solve themselves easily by I will figure out or we will figure out what to do about it. And I'll show them empathy and love and support and kindness. And if you're not capable of giving all of that, then I'll at least just give them neutrality and be like, okay, I'm sorry about that. What should we do about it? And that's a beautiful place. So as long as I'm always trying to be best, so I'm trying to do my best, I'm not trying to be the best, I'm trying to do my best. It's okay if I'm not 100% perfect. I'm human. So are you. So let's be these humans coming together and trying their best to have a good time, trying their best to respect other people's boundaries, trying their best to give each other an amazing experience. Everybody is just doing their best, including you. If you're inexperienced, maybe you're even a virgin, you've probably been sitting around trying really hard to lose it and give yourself that beautiful, amazing sex life that you've always wanted. It's time to actually do this thing for real. Here's just a little taste of some of what we've helped our inexperienced clients achieve. Theo lost his virginity, had a bunch of sex, and even participated in an orgy. Ed was a 31-year-old virgin with extreme erectile dysfunction. He's since gone on to have a wildly abundant sex life and is now a coach alongside me in our coaching program. We helped Ravi lose his virginity at age 30 and go on to build the type of amazing sex life he never dreamed was possible. Jeff hadn't had sex in 9 years and ended up having sex within just 5 weeks of coaching. No matter what your experience level, if having more sex and having more wildly abundant, awesome, amazing sexual experiences with your intimate partner is something that's important to you, let us help. That's what we're here for. There's a link in the description below to the coaching. Click that and come and join us. But I promise you, if these clients can do it, you absolutely sure as hell can too.